Hello children, today we are going to study about biodiversity conservation. In the previous class, we have studied about laws of biodiversity. In that class, we talked about various extinct species, which is also listed in your NCERT textbook. That is dodo, quagga, thylacine, Steelers sea cow, and 3 subspecies of tigers like Bali, Javan and Caspian. Children, there are so many species which face a threat of extinction. That is, there are 12 species of birds, 23 species of mammals, 32 species of amphibians, 31 species of gymnosperm. We have to conserve this biodiversity, protect this species from being extinct. Before entering into the topic, how to conserve this biodiversity, let us talk about why should we conserve biodiversity. Why should we conserve biodiversity? There are so many reasons to conserve biodiversity. It is broadly divided into 3 categories. First, narrowly utilitarian, so what is narrowly utilitarian? Human beings derives economic benefits directly from the nature. This economic benefits, say in the form of food, cereals, pulses, fruits, vegetables, meat, egg, everything that we are getting from the nature. Next is firewood and fossil fuel. Fossil fuel like coal, petroleum, natural gas, etc. Next, fiber like cotton, silk, wool, flax. Next is construction material. This construction material we are getting from nature in the form of timber. Okay. Next is industrial products. Industrial products like resin, gum, lubricants, perfumes we are getting from the nature. Next is medicine. Children, 25% of this drugs which is available in this market is from plant. Okay. Now, near about Ayurveda, when we talk about Ayurveda, Ayurveda is of plant product. Near about 25,000 species of plants are used by the native people as a medicine. So these are the economic benefits that we are getting from the nature. That is why it is known as narrowly utilitarian. So what is narrowly utilitarian? Human being derives economic benefits directly from the nature. The economic benefits like food, firewood, fossil fuel, fiber, construction material, industrial products and medicines. Next is second one is broadly utilitarian. Biodiversity play a major role in ecosystem services. The ecosystem services like oxygen. This ecosystem services that nature provides, like oxygen. Okay, oxygen is very essential for every living organism. Without oxygen, we cannot survive in this earth. We are getting oxygen from plants. Plants undergo a process of photosynthesis. During that process, oxygen is released. That oxygen is used by the other living organism. Now, we have studied that Amazon forest is said to be the lung of the earth because it releases 20% of the total oxygen of this earth atmosphere. Now children, we are facing a pandemic period. During this period, we felt the need of oxygen cylinders. Cost of 12 liters of oxygen cylinder is near about 1,000 rupees. And a big tree releases 114 liters of oxygen daily. Just imagine children, we are paying 1,000 rupees for 12 liters of oxygen. Okay? And a big tree releases 114 liters of oxygen daily. Can we put economic value for these services? Next we'll see pollination. Pollination is a transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma. Pollination is very essential for the formation of fruits and seeds. Without pollination, angiospermic plant will not produce fruits and seeds. There are certain agents which helps in the pollination like bees, bumblebees, insects, moths, and we can say butterflies, birds and bats. Now just imagine children, if you remove all these agents from this earth, what will happen? There will be no pollination. Is it possible for the human being to pollinate each and every flower? Next is aesthetic pleasure. This nature provides us aesthetic pleasure in many ways. Walking through the forest and walking through the beach, okay, walking in the garden, chirping sounds of birds, skating on the snow. These are the aesthetic pleasure we are getting from the nature. Can we put a price tag to these services provided by nature? That is why it is known as broadly utilitarian. So, what is broadly utilitarian? Biodiversity play an important role in the ecosystem services that nature provides. It is in the form of, we have taken few examples as oxygen, pollination and aesthetic pleasures. Next we'll see third one, ethical. We human beings share this planet along with millions of plants and animal species, even with microbes. Philosophically and spiritually, we have to realize the important, that is intrinsic value of this species, that is plants and animals and microbes, and whether they are giving us economic value or not. It's our moral duty to conserve each and every living organism of this earth. And not only conserve, we have to protect them, care them, and we have to transfer this biodiversity to the next generation without causing much damage. That is known as ethical. So, the reason for conservation, we have seen it is broadly divided into three. First is narrowly utilitarian. What is narrowly utilitarian? human being derives economic benefits directly from the nature in the form of food, firewood, fiber, construction material, etc. Broadly utilitarian, biodiversity play an important role in ecosystem services that nature provides. It is in the form of oxygen, pollination, aesthetic pleasure we have seen. Ethical, since we are sharing this planet along with other species of plants and animals and microbes, it's our moral duty to conserve each and every living organism of this earth and to transfer this organism to the next generation without causing much damage. Is it clear, children? Now we will see how do we conserve biodiversity. There are two approaches to conserve biodiversity. First is in situ conservation and second is Xc2 conservation. First we will see in situ conservation. In situ conservation is also known as on-site conservation. Here the species are conserved in their natural habitat along with the nature. Suppose we will take an example, tiger. If we want to conserve tiger, we conserve the forest where the tiger lives along with the tiger. We demarcate an area and that is the in situ conservation. So what is in situ conservation? Species are conserved in the natural habitat along with the nature. Okay. Now we will see certain examples of in situ conservation. First is hotspot. Hotspots are a large area where there is a high level of species diversity. You can see high level of species diversity So what do you mean by high level of species diversity? There you can see more varieties of species, okay, and they're having high degree of endemism. What do you mean by endemism? Endemism means endemic species. Endemic species means a particular species which is confined in that particular area. A species which is confined in that particular area are said to be the endemic species. You cannot see this species anywhere else. Okay. Now we'll take the example as Nicobar megapode. It is a bird which is found only in Nicobar groups of island. Okay. Next is Narcondam hornbill. This Narcondam hornbill is a bird which you can see only in the Narcondam island. That means these are the endemic species. Endemic species are those species which are confined to a particular area and you cannot see this species anywhere else. Okay. So a hotspot is also an area where you can see accelerated loss of habitat. Okay. So what you have seen here, hotspot is a region, it's a very big region where there is a high level of species diversity and high degree of endemism, and there is an accelerated loss of habitat. Okay. In the world, you can see 34 hotspots. According to the present list, there is 36 hotspots. In your NCERT textbook, it is given as 34. Okay. So if you write 34, then also you'll get marks. In India, you can see 3 hotspots. The 3 hotspots are Himalaya, Western Ghat and Sri Lanka and Indo-Burma. These are the 3 hotspots which covers India. Okay, this is about hotspots. Okay, next is, second one is National Park. National parks are large area where natural resources like flora and fauna are conserved. In India, there are 90 national parks are there. According to the present list, it is 101. Next, we'll see wildlife sanctuary. Wildlife sanctuaries are smaller than national park, where wild animals are conserved in their natural habitat. Now this national park and wildlife sanctuaries is constituted under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Wildlife sanctuary in India, you can see 448 wildlife sanctuaries. According to the present list, it is 543. Okay, next is Biosphere Reserve. Biosphere reserves are very large area where you can see high level of species diversity, high degree of endemism, and here you can also see human components. In some biosphere reserves, national parks are also included. We can see, we'll take the example of Great Nicobar. Great Nicobar is a biosphere reserve. Here you can see 2 national parks, that is Galathea National Park and Campbell Bay National Park. Okay. Total biosphere reserve in India is 14. According to the present list, it is 80. Next is sacred groves. There are certain groups of people or tribes, they consider forest as their god. They protect the god and do not cause any damage to the forest and do not allow any human being to cause any damage to this forest. Okay, in India you can see sacred groves like Aravali Hill in Rajasthan, Kasi and Jayantiya Hill in Meghalaya and Western Ghat region of Karnataka and Maharashtra. These are the sacred groves which is found in a country. So what we have seen in situ conservation, in situ conservation means species are conserved in the natural habitat along with the nature. Okay, So we have seen that there are various types of in situ conservation like hotspot. Hotspot is a place where you can see high level of species diversity and high degree of endemism. And we have seen national park. National park is a region where natural resources like flora and fauna are conserved. Wildlife sanctuaries where wild animals along with their natural habitats are conserved. Next we have seen Biosphere Reserve, which is a large area where you can see endemic species, high level of species diversity and human components like champagnes. Okay. Now in Great Nicobar we have taken the example of Great Nicobar where two national parks are seen, that is Galathea and Campbell Bay National Park, where you can see different varieties of species like giant leatherback turtles, saltwater crocodiles, and even you can see tree ferns, which is a rare species found only in the Great Nicobar Island. Next we will see Xc2 Conservation. Xc2 Conservation is also known as off-site conservation, where the species are taken from their natural habitat and it is conserved in an enclosure by providing all the condition which is similar to that of the nature. Okay. Suppose we will take the example of tiger. If we want to conserve tigers, suppose this tigers are said to be a endangered species. Their number is reducing day by day because of illegal killing. Okay. Now they are not safe in the natural or wild habitat. Okay. So these tigers are taken from the forest and they are conserved in an enclosure by providing all the condition which is similar to that of the nature. Okay, that is known as Xc2 Conservation. So what is Xc2 Conservation? Species are taken from their natural habitat and it is conserved in an enclosure by providing all the condition which is similar to that of the nature. Okay. Now we will see certain examples. First is Zoological Park. Zoological Park where animals are conserved. Okay. Here you can see various types, threatened species, endemic species and extinct species of animals are conserved in this zoological park. Extinct means extinct in the wild. They are extinct in the natural habitat. In the natural habitat, that particular species is extinct. In order to protect them from extinction, they are taken and it is conserved in an enclosure, and it is also breeded in order to maintain its number. Here the visitors are allowed to see these animals. Next is Botanical Garden. In Botanical Garden, living plants are conserved. Here also visitors are allowed to see different varieties of species of plants. Okay, and here you can see different threatened species, endangered species of plants you can see in Botanical Garden. Next is Wildlife Safari. Wildlife safari is larger than that of the zoological park. Here the visitors are allowed to ride in a vehicle through this garden and they can see freely roaming animals. Okay, that is known as the wildlife safaris. Now you have, these are the Xc2 Conservation, that is zoological park, botanical garden and wildlife safari. But there are certain cells or tissues or gametes which have to be protected, because that suppose there are certain threatened species. Okay, that if we wanted to protect that threatened species or endangered species, the gametes has to be preserved. That technique is known as Cryo Preservation. In cryopreservation, gametes, pollen grains and tissues are preserved in the liquid nitrogen under -196°C. That is known as cryopreservation. And again, certain threatened species or endangered species plants, their seeds are collected in a seed bank. So the next one is the seed bank. So these are the Xc2 conservation. So what is Xc2 conservation? Xc2 conservation, where the species are taken from their natural habitat and it is conserved in an enclosure by providing all the conditions similar to that of the natural environment or natural ecosystem. Okay. Now here we have seen Zoological Park, Botanical Garden, Wildlife Safari, Cryo Preservation and Seed Bank. Children, biodiversity knows no political boundaries. They do not have any political boundaries. Every nation has to conserve their biodiversity. There was two historic convention took place, that is Earth Summit and World Summit. Earth Summit held at Rio de Janeiro in the year 1992. The agenda of this Earth Summit is to conserve biodiversity. Okay, next summit is the World Summit, which held at Johannesburg in the year 2002. Here the agenda is the sustainable development. Near about 190 countries took a pledge to achieve this development by 2010. Okay, these are the two conventions, that is historic convention, that is the Earth Summit and the World Summit, in order to conserve biodiversity and to make a sustainable development. Children, in this class we have studied about biodiversity conservation. In that we have studied what is the reason why we should conserve biodiversity. The reasons are categorized into three. They are narrowly utilitarian, where human being derives economic benefits directly from the nature. That is known as narrowly utilitarian. We have seen certain examples like food, fiber, construction material, industrial products, so many things, medicines and all. Next is broadly utilitarian. Biodiversity play an important role in ecosystem services that nature provides. Ecosystem services like we have seen oxygen, importance of oxygen and pollination and aesthetic pleasure. Next we have seen ethical. Since we are sharing this planet along with the other species, it's our moral duty to conserve, protect every living organisms and to transfer this biodiversity to the next generation without causing much harm. So these are the reasons for conserving biodiversity. We have also seen the approaches how to conserve this biodiversity. There are two approaches for the conservation of biodiversity, that is in situ conservation. In situ means it is also known as on-site conservation, where the living species, that is species, are conserved in the natural habitat along with the nature. Okay, and we have seen so many examples like hotspot, national park, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves and sacred groves. Next is Xc2 conservation. Xc2 conservation means the species are taken from the natural habitat and it is conserved in an enclosure where all the conditions similar to that of the nature is provided. And we have seen the examples of Zoological Park, and then we have seen Botanical Garden, then Wildlife Safari, and preservation, cryo preservation and seed banks comes under Xc2 conservation. We have also seen certain historic convention like Earth Summit and World Summit. Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro in the year 1992. The agenda of Earth Summit is to conserve biodiversity, and the World Summit held in Johannesburg in 2002. The agenda is the sustainable development. Okay. Hope you might have understood this topic clearly. Go through the portions thoroughly. Work hard. Stay safe. Good luck. Thank you.